In this lesson, we're going to talk about how to add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators. Let's say you're given two fractions like 3/4 and 1/3, and you're asked to add them together. The first thing we need to do is make the denominators be equal, because as you can see here, we have a 4 in this fraction and a 3 in this fraction, and we can't really add these two fractions together unless they have the same denominators. Now, there are a couple of ways that we can get a denominator to be the same in both of the fractions, and one of the best ways to do it is just find a common multiple between the two fractions. So how we do that is we have what I like to call a race between the two denominators that are currently there. So we put the 4 on one side and the 3 on another. And I like to use a T-chart because it helps me keep things in better order so that I can clearly see where I'm at. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a smaller number. I'm just going to list the first couple of multiples of 3. And the first multiple of 3 is 3. Again, we get that by multiplying 3 times 1. 3 times 2 will give us the next multiple, which is 6. Now, since I've passed the 4 on the left column, we're going to go ahead and figure out the multiples of 4 until they meet in both sides, and that'll give us our common multiple. So the first multiple of 4 is 4 itself, and the next one is 8. Now, as you can see, I've passed the 8 has passed the 6 on this side, so we're going to go ahead and jump over to this list so that we can continue to see if we can find a common multiple. So the next multiple of 3 is 9. And now I've passed the 8, so I'm going to jump over to the column for the 4. Let me go ahead and make this line a little longer. And the next multiple of 4 is going to be 12. I've passed the 9, so we're going to go ahead and jump over to that side. And the next multiple of 3 is going to be 3 times 4, which will give me 12. And here we have a common multiple. So that's going to be our LCM, which is going to equal 12. And also, because we're working with fractions, it's going to become our LCD, our least common denominator. What that means for us is that now we can use that 12 as our new denominator when we add these two fractions. So I'm going to go ahead and make this fraction right here turn into something over 12 plus, and then turn this one into something over 12. And we're going to ask ourselves, well, what times this 4 gives me this 12? And I know that 4 times 3 will give us 12. So what we do to the bottom, we do to the top. So 3 times 3 will give us the number that goes on the top for the numerator. Now we do the same thing to the other fraction. So we ask ourselves, 3 times what gives me 12, and I know the answer to that is going to be 4. So what I do to the bottom, I do to the top, and 1 times 4 gives me 4. Now I can add these two fractions because I have a common denominator amongst the two fractions. And the answer to this will be 9 plus 4, which will give me 13, and then the denominator stays the same. The only issue with this fraction right here, even though it's our answer, is that it is not in simplest form. So now I'm going to help you put that fraction in simplest form. So when we worked out the addition part of the fractions, we got 13 over 12. In order to put this in simplest form, we're going to go ahead and we're going to remove as many wholes as we can from this fraction. And what I mean by removing wholes is we're going to go ahead and do 13 minus 12 over 13 over 2 minus 12 over 12. Each 12 over 12 represents a whole. And the reason I put 12 over 12 is because our denominator is 12. So I know that I can take away 1 12 over 12 here, and since this is one whole, I'm going to bring that over as a whole, and my remainder is going to be the fraction part in my mixed number, or the simplest form. So it's going to be 13 minus 12, it'll give me 1. And the 12 on the bottom, the denominator is the same. So my answer is going to be 1 and 1/12. Let's go ahead and do another example. Here I have a half plus 3/10. So I have to have my race between the 2 and the 10 in order to make them be the same. So I put the 2 on the left and the 10 on the right, and I have my race between the two numbers. So the first multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And here I can actually stop because I see that this is common to that. They're equal. So that's my LCM, my least common multiple. That'll be 10. And again, because we're working with fractions, that also becomes my least common denominator because that's the number that I want to put at the bottom. So now I rewrite the original two fractions as something over 10 plus something over 10. And I ask myself, 2 times what gives me 10? And I know that 2 times 5 gives me 10. And what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So 1 times 5 gives me 5. And then 10 times 1 gives me 10. So times 1 up here will give me 3. Now I can add these two easily because my denominators are the same. So 5 plus 3 will give me 8. And the 10 stays the same as our denominator. And we have 8 tenths. Again, we want to make sure we put that in simplest form. So let's go ahead and do that. So in order to put 8 tenths in simplest form, we have to divide both the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor. And I happen to know that the greatest common factor between these two numbers is 2, because 2 is the greatest number that I can think of that goes